So just to give you an update on what's happening in the primary in Kentucky. So unfortunately, with 40% reporting, we have Amy McGrath at 45.7%, Charles Booker at 35%, and Mike Boyer at 7.4%. So unfortunately, Booker is still behind.
You know what, this makes me so angry though. Like I just wanna make sure that everywhere I go, I keep telling people, especially people from marginalized communities, you have to show up and vote. You can't just show up on Twitter. You can't just show up on Instagram and Facebook. You have to show up and vote. Those of you who are out there who consider yourself gang members and the street guys, escort the older Black people and brown people to the voting polls and defend them so that they can vote. We have to use everybody in the community on the spectrum from each side and everything in between and put all hands on deck, because we're not gonna have changes with these police officers, with these superintendents, unless we focus on our local, the people in our habitat. So I just want everybody who's out there, talk to your cousins, because this Kentucky is Breonna Taylor, right? That's where Breonna Taylor is. So how are you gonna get change if you don't even show up and vote?
So let me back up Ida here. So two excellent examples of the elections today. So Charles Booker is a Black candidate in Kentucky, now down by 10. He had a late surge because the media finally realized he was in the race and started covering him, partly because the progressives endorsed him, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and AOC, and it made a difference. But if they'd endorsed earlier, maybe, and most importantly, if the media had covered it earlier. But guys, so the media generally is not on our side. And so one of the reasons they dismiss Booker is because he's Black. And they say, oh no, Kentucky doesn't have enough Black voters. But Kentucky has plenty of Democratic voters that agree with Charles Booker, that agree with him. Just open up your minds just a little bit. And when they did, because of the protests in Kentucky, particularly because of Breonna Taylor, and obviously because of George Floyd, and Booker's leading those, then they go, oh, okay, maybe he could win. And all of a sudden he goes to 35 points and could have won tonight. And so, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna change the laws unless you change the people in charge. If you put Booker in charge, you're gonna change the laws. So in this case, you gotta show up and vote. The media's gotta tell you that there's an actual candidate, but at the same time, at the very last step, not the only step, the last step is us actually going out and voting. So now, can it make a difference? A lot of people are worried that it can't. A lot of people are giving up on electoral politics, but let me outline for you how tonight can change the world through electoral politics. So when Donald Trump won, it was actually the three of us on air as well. Ida Rodriguez and Anna Kasparian and I were on, and Ida reminded me of it recently too, when everybody was sad that Trump had won and was depressed about the situation. I said, no, this is the time you get up and fight. So I wasn't sad, I was mad. And I said, look, the Democrats lost to an incompetent buffoon because they're incredibly weak. Okay, well, that gives us an opportunity. So why don't we get up and take over the Democratic Party? If they're so weak, let's steamroll them. And people thought that's outrageous. You can't possibly do that. Bernie just lost in 2016, and you got almost no progressives in Congress. So what did we do together? The Young Turks audience, what did we do together? We raised $2.5 million for Justice Democrats candidates. And yes, a lot of them lost, and then the media snickered. But we didn't give up. We kept going and going and going. Guess what? 4 of them won. And then we had 3 incumbents say, yeah, I'm Justice Democrats. And those 4 that won are world beaters. So AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and Ayanna Pressley, how much of a difference have they made in changing the conversation? So, but remember guys, that was always supposed to be step 1. Tonight is step 2. So here comes Jamal Bowman. So he's a Justice Democrat as well. Now Marie Newman already won. So now we got 8 Justice Democrats. She's gonna win the general election easily. She beat a Democratic incumbent in Illinois, one of the worst, most conservative Democrats gone. Marie Newman is going to Congress instead. If Jamal wins against Eliot Engel, one of the strongest Democrats, he's one of the committee chairs. That's a world of difference. Guys, because if Jamal wins, it's not just that we have 9 Justice Democrats in Congress and more to come, people like Kara Eastman, Alex Morse, etc. But it means anybody can be beat. And now we've got the establishment Democrats who are going to be looking over their shoulder and thinking, who's the next AOC? Who's the next Jamal Bowman? It turns out it wasn't a fluke. We could lose any primary anywhere. So now that means they've got to listen to progressives. Now, you haven't seen it yet. And so I get why you're skeptical. Pretty much my whole lifetime, progressives have had no power in this country. So it seems unbelievable. But remember, guys, what I always remind you, progressives used to be the lions. FDR is a progressive and he steamrolled everybody, including the establishment. And he said, I welcome their hatred. Come at me, bro. It's basically what FDR said. And what did he do? Social Security and I almost said Green New Deal, the New Deal, right? And the Green New Deal is based on the New Deal of FDR and JFK and LBJ and Medicare and all these things that we made a difference. But all the way into the 1970s, Ralph Nader got Richard Nixon to pass the EPA and OSHA and seatbelts and saved millions of lives. And so we can do that again. If Jamal wins tonight, they cannot ignore us anymore. And if they do it at their peril, that means we have power. And then we get to see what we can accomplish. Because wave 2 is not the only wave. After Jamal, there'll be a wave 3 and a wave 4. And if we keep winning elections, that is how you seize power in a democracy.
I just wanted to quickly say to people of color who watch, because a lot of people of color are watching. Some just peek in and they're just checking out. Progressive politics are the only politics that include all of the issues, that include all of the disparities in communities of color and marginalized communities. When we talk about climate change in our communities and we're like, oh, that's some white people stuff. No, there are a lot of people who are being pushed out of their neighborhoods because of climate racism. And progressive politics is taking this on where everybody else is not even acknowledging this, like the Haitian community in Miami, which we covered on TYT. When we talk about healthcare and we talk about COVID-19, so because a lot of people are afraid of progressive politics, they think it's some form of extremism, but it is extreme because we need extremism, because right now it's radical to think about equality for when it comes to everybody in this country, when it comes to women, people of color, LGBTQ communities, and people of color in the intersection of all of those. So it's very important for people to understand what progressive politics is, because this whole socialism, communism cloak that they put over it to scare you away from it is what they've been using to keep you oppressed. And so every time I talk now, it's gonna be a PSA to people like me. And you poor white people, y'all are just nothing but black and brown people who are next in line in the eyes of corporate America. So just know that when this comes down, it comes down on you too. So don't let them keep fooling you that your skin is gonna make you exempt from poverty and lack of health care and all of the other issues, because it's not.
So there's someone who writes for The Athletic. No, I don't read anything having to do with sports. I just know about him through a mutual friend. His name is Wozni Lombre. I want to bring him on the show soon. But he's Haitian, and he shared a really interesting part of his, life experience, his worldview that I think, deserves to be heard by many people. And he talked about going to college in Pennsylvania. And of course, as a Haitian, immigrant in the United States, he's experienced quite a bit of racism and police brutality. And so he talked about how like his college roommates were from a very modest background, meaning that they were not rich, and also had similar experiences with the cops and used similar rhetoric in describing what they thought about cops. And I bring that up because you're absolutely right, Ida. I think that one thing that Republicans in particular are really good at doing is dividing and conquering, right? And we've seen that with the Trump administration. It's really been amplified and emphasized by the Trump administration. But make no mistake, you're absolutely right. In corporate America, under this system that we're living under, don't think that you have power and you are gonna be protected because of your skin color. A lot of it does come down to money. Money in this country means power. And we should never, ever be okay with anyone being brutalized, regardless of their skin color, regardless of anything. And I don't know, I love that you brought that up because it's absolutely true. I think for far too long, people have allowed these narratives to play out in their head, when in reality, we should be protecting one another, period.
100%.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.